Money Vikings, hope you're doing well. And I have a really special one for you today. It's 7 steps to build wealth as soon as possible. And the reason I like what we put together here is that it's not BS. A lot of what you see on YouTube is, get rich quick stuff and here's how to do this and that. And it gets a lot of clicks and a lot of attention, but a lot of it isn't true. So, this is the actual 7 steps to build wealth as soon as possible. So let's dive right into it here and let's talk about this today. Of course, check out truewealth.moneyvikings.com for more of a deep dive. And please consider liking and subscribing and sharing and all that great stuff. It really is really inspirational to see the channel grow. And our whole goal is to give you value, to add value to your true wealth journey. And that's in the area of investing, that's in the area of health, and that's in the area of collectibles, which I'm pretty much into. So let's talk about it here. Let's be honest. We all want to build wealth as soon as possible. Not many of us want to wait until we're 70 in order to have a good amount of wealth and some sort of financial comfort and freedom. So the concept here is to build wealth as soon as possible. So in this article, I put together the 7 concrete steps that we took to build wealth as soon as possible. And the added bonus is if you can achieve this maybe at some point in your early 40s or late 30s, you then have an amazing foundation built that can just propel you to different levels of wealth and opportunities over the coming decades as you do approach 70. And life isn't over at 70. A lot of people have plenty of things to do at 70 and beyond. You got to maybe have a couple of good decades, especially if you've been taking care of your health and all that kind of stuff. So let's talk about it. What is true wealth? First, we have to define what we mean. Okay. So what I want to talk about is this. I'm not talking about becoming a billionaire. That to me, when you study billionaires, yes, they're talented. Yes, they're hardworking. But there's an X factor with billionaires typically. And a lot of it has to do with timing or some amazing skill or talent that they were born with. And I've always found that there's some X factor in their timing. I'm not saying they didn't work hard. I'm not saying they're not intelligent. I'm not saying they didn't do a lot of right things. It's true. It's great. But there was a lot of times an X factor there. The classic one is Bill Gates and people like Steve Jobs. They were 10 and 11 years old in maybe the late 50s, early 60s, and had access to personal computers at their home before anyone in the world did. Okay. Now, what they did with that was amazing. But I'm just saying that there were some X factors there in terms of their location and where they were born and the family they were born into. Now, what I'm talking about is building wealth and our definition. I'm going to talk about our definition here. So in 2022, for example, the average net worth of US households was about 300,000. Now we know that's just averages. The median is much lower and most households have a much lower net worth because the really high net worth households skew that up. So stick with me here. The median net worth for someone 35 to 44 is about 91,000. So about 91,000 is the median. That's the number in the middle. And this goes up to 168,000 for people ages 45 to 54. So let's talk about it this way. Let's say that by age, sometime in your late 40s, for sake of a definition, we want to peg the number at double the average net worth. So let's peg it at 600,000. For most people, this is quite doable if they have a couple of things going for them, if they can put in place these 7 factors I'm going to talk about, and the main thing I've always wanted to talk about too is steady employment. Now, people that are real up and down with having a real hard time holding on to jobs and a lot of bumps in the road, maybe some other issues in their life, which can be pretty sad. It's going to be very hard to do this. This really does require, I don't think it requires a huge salary, but it does require, I think, an above average salary. And I think we need to get out of the minimum wage world because it's very hard, I think, to build wealth on that because it's just so expensive to live, housing, food, insurance, etc. But with someone with steady employment as a foundation, I think they can take these 7 things and run and really build some substantial wealth. So that's our first thing, is to define it as 600,000. And I think that sets someone up on a trajectory to get to 1 million. So that's that. The next thing I want to talk about is true wealth. Of course, we talk a lot about this. For me, that's a combination of things. It's not just a number. A number is a number. I'm talking about things like your health. And for me personally, it's relationships and collectibles and art. So that's why we talk a lot about collectibles and art on the channel. I think those three things combined create a life of true wealth. But we're going to peg it at 600,000 and we're going to talk about the 7 steps. Okay, so the very first one that I've got to hit home with everybody, it's so vital, and please listen, please hear me out here. It's automate paying yourself first. I've just seen time and time again, people, they go for the meme stock, they go for the crypto, they go for this. It's all these elaborate schemes. And years clip by and they haven't done one very basic thing. If you're getting a paycheck every 2 weeks or every month, you just automate having 5%, 10%, whatever you can do. I'm a big believer in trying to get that as high as possible, but automating some amount into a index fund every 2 weeks or every month. There's a couple advantages. You're dollar cost averaging, so you're buying when things are low, and then you're enjoying some of the rides up. You're going to take advantage of compounding over time. And you've taken the human inability to see into the future and plan, you've taken that factor out. That factor's gone. You have automated yourself. You've set yourself up for success right from the moment. This time and again adds up so much. So it's just, life is not, and I say it in the article here, life is not a movie. In movies, we are shown an illusion and a fantasy that at some magical moment, our life just snaps into place, okay? And something magical happens. There's a fairy that comes and turns something into a carriage, a pumpkin, or there's some magic, or there's some moment. Yes, life has magic. I think life has fantasy. Life has moments that mean a lot. But I just think when it comes to finances, it's just usually not like that. It is very much a step-by-step approach. And for me, I'm a huge believer that this is the first step. So, it's just, I compare two different things, okay? You compare this to someone that just stands there and flails about waiting for a magical moment versus someone that takes one step at a time with automated investments every 2 weeks. Well, you go 10 years out, which isn't that long, and the person that's waiting for the magical moment is flailing around and standing in the same place. The person that automated 10 years later is way ahead, okay? That's number one. That in my heart is the number one thing that someone has got to do. Okay, the second thing in terms of 7 steps to build wealth as soon as possible. Okay, we have to reduce debt and avoid unnecessary liabilities. I have Caleb Hammer, my guy Caleb Hammer here. These videos are great. You'll get a great example of what not to become in terms of debt. Most of his guests are in massive amounts of crazy debt, and they cannot pull themselves out for a lot of psychological and emotional reasons. But in order to build wealth fast, we have got to reduce debt and avoid unnecessary liabilities. If you've got your eye on that brand new car, well, you're gonna have to make a choice. You can have the brand new car or you can build wealth. You can't do both. If you go for the car, you're gonna destroy wealth. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. So, reducing debt and avoid unnecessary liabilities. Check out the Caleb Hammer videos for examples of that. So I mentioned cars here. Okay, saving and investing wisely. I saw so much over the pandemic years of the meme stock craze and the crypto craze. And I get it. I know crypto's up this year, apparently, but it's still volatile. And I'm not saying there isn't a place for all that stuff. But I think for the bread and butter core of someone's investments, for me, I'm going to go with tried and true things. Okay, those are index funds into strong companies, quality dividend payers, rental properties, real estate investment trusts that are quality, have those dividends reinvested, and I think that over the long run is gonna save the day. Is going to be really strong. Now, be diversified within all that. I'm not saying not to be diversified because no one knows the future. And I also understand that there's a small place, and there can be a place for some alternative investments. And we do that. We talk a lot about that at Money Vikings. Do some alternative investments in collectibles, do some alternative investments in crypto. That's fine. But it's a real red flag to me when 90% of someone's assets are not tied up, are tied up in like really weird things that are so out there. And you're like, wow, it's a lot of risk. Could pay off, probably won't. My take, okay? All right, next thing is buy a home. This one will be controversial, I know, because I've been talking about real estate lately. How much house can you afford? We did a video on that recently. Check it out. So, I have found that most people that build wealth in the United States typically own a home. Okay, I'm not saying that it can't be done without buying a home. A person can build wealth without buying a home. But I believe 9 times out of 10, you're going to see that, self-made millionaires, millionaire next door, people that have built, hundreds of thousands of dollars in wealth, they typically own their own home. And a lot of their net worth is sometimes tied up in that home. That's not necessarily a bad thing, okay? It's an asset that goes up over time if you can manage it effectively. And in your later years, it gives you a lot of opportunities. I would just say this, don't you want options in life? I think buying a home gives a person options. Now, buying a home in the short run is not a moneymaker. There's a lot of cost to buying and owning and operating a home, as we know. But if you can afford it over the years, typically the equity builds in that property. And again, I'm talking 10, 15 years down the line, you could look back and you could have a substantial amount of equity. And the main thing about it is you may not ever tap it. You may not ever leave your home or whatever, but you do have the option. You could sell your home, you take that equity, you can move to a less expensive part of the country and buy a nicer home or buy something else, or just have the money. Maybe you decide owning a home isn't for me. Well, you tried it for 10 years. You got all that equity. You could sell, you take 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 out, and hey, you have $400,000 that you wouldn't have had if you were renting, right? So just keep that in mind. I think that's an important thing. And I think most studies will show that owning a home is typically a big deal in terms of building wealth quickly. Okay, so I'm going to add this one, number 5. Focus on health and low-cost pursuits. We have to develop hobbies and focus areas that don't cost us a fortune, because a lot of people have hobbies that are very expensive. And that's just going to eat into your money that you could be putting in investment vehicles. So I've found that focusing on health is a good way. Going for a walk, going for a bike ride, lifting some weights in your backyard, playing with the kids, enjoying all kinds of things that are healthy, focusing on picking and choosing healthy foods, enjoying those foods, cooking. These are all low-cost pursuits. So you'll fill your time with low-cost things that then also make you feel wealthier because you feel healthier. You have more energy. You're able to make better decisions. So I think that's another one. Number 5 is focus on health and low-cost pursuits. Again, check out our Money Vikings YouTube because we have a whole health section. We've been putting all kinds of information together and research that we've been doing on different ways to live a very healthy life. Increase your income. So, a lot of times you'll hear people focus on the cutting back aspect of building wealth, which is key. I really believe in that. We do have to cut back and keep budgets trim and tight and focused. But the other side of the coin is trying to think about ways to increase your income. And that could be through dividend paying stocks. That could be through Fiverr, through extra jobs, extra hours at work, whatever it might be. I do the side hustle of buying and selling collectibles. I trade in collectibles, right? I do the collectibles channel. And a lot of times what I do when I do my box breaks is I sell several of the high value cards. Typically that just pays for my hobby, but I could turn it in the future into a money-making venture. A lot of the comic books have gone up in value and I save them as long-term collectibles and assets. I could sell them if I want to at times. It's just a decision we can make. And it's something I enjoy at the same time. But increasing income, thinking and finding ways to do that is critical. Okay, and the final one here is continually educate yourself. I've found that self-made millionaires and wealthy people, they always are seeking investment opportunities and they're educating themselves. They're really trying to learn about the ins and outs of whatever kind of investment vehicle and whatever it might be in life. They're lifelong learners. That's a key aspect, I think, of building wealth. And I think it just makes us sharper, smarter. I think we're better able to navigate the world. So I would just say we have to continue to educate ourselves. So with that, please like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. If you get value out of this, appreciate you watching. Be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.